Thank you for joining us on Behind the Scenes at the Hanover Theatre. This is Lisa Conant. I'm so excited to be on the phone with one of, I think, the most special people here in Worcester for a lot of reasons. You'll all find out why. Charlotte Klein. She is the director of Charlotte Klein Dance Studios, which I would say is an institution in the area. They have 2 studios, and we're lucky enough at the Hanover Theatre to have their annual recitals coming up June 1st and 2nd. You can get more information on our website, of course. But so welcome to the program, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Charlotte, you have been doing this for quite some time, and I mean that in the best way possible because you are a very successful businesswoman. You're a graduate of Worcester State University, and you and your family seem to know every entertainment guru from here to across the world. Is that fair? I think it's fair.
A little bit of an exaggeration, I'd say.
Oh, come on. Your daughter has been in movies with Steve Martin. Your dancers have danced on Broadway. Oh, sorry.
No, my granddaughter.
So, Charlotte, tell us a little bit about how you have seen Worcester change from when you first started your dance studio to now.
Ooh, that was 60 years ago. My first studio was downtown, right across from where the Hanover Theatre is now. I think the floor that I occupied is now torn down, but it was right across from the Hanover, which is kind of interesting. At that time, I taught 2 days a week downtown, and the rest of the time, initially, I had a small little studio in my parents' basement, and that was 60 years ago. And then after I was married, we purchased a home, and we made sure that the ceiling was high enough so that I could have a studio in the basement in my own home, and that's what I did. I used to rent a church 2 days a week in Tatnick Square, and then the rest of the time I taught, and people come into what was then my studio, and they can touch the ceiling, and they say to me, how did you ever teach here? How did we ever dance here? But at that time, I had 175 students.
Wow.
In my home.
That is incredible to me. But now, today, you have 2 different studios.
Yes, 2 locations.
Yes. And, you know, you may have been around for 60 years, but your dances are still completely current. How many different dance instructors do you have on staff there?
I think at the present time we have 11.
Wow. And you teach...
And many of them teach at both locations.
In Westboro and in Worcester.
Right.
And your students are very impressive. And I will just fess up to everybody that my daughter dances with Charlotte. And the reason my daughter dances with Charlotte is because the technique is beyond compare. And I love the fact that although your studio is into dance competitions, not from a very itty-bitty age, except for, of course, you've taken this new team to new levels. We'll get back to that in a second. But your dancers go on to do great things because of the overall education. What are some of your dancers doing right now? And you have some title winners in your presence, right?
Right. Well, it's important to us that I follow something that my dance teacher told me when I was 17 or 18 years old, and, you know, planning maybe just to dance, and she told me that you have to have something in your head, not only in your feet. And so she encouraged me to enroll in what was then Worcester State College, and from that point on, I've always encouraged my students to get a college education. I would say that just about every one of my graduates does go on to college.
Which is wonderful. And they're going to big schools. They're not going to small community schools. Where are some of your dancers now?
Oh, you mean graduates?
Yeah.
Oh,
well, we have Arizona State, right?
Oh, no, University of Arizona.
Okay.
I have 2 students there. One is graduating in a couple weeks, and he's already got a professional contract in Chicago.
Nice.
And he keeps in touch. His sister, who is in our dance company now, is the current Miss Dance of New England. Teen Miss Dance of New England.
Talk about where Colby is and what he's doing, because I think that's very
Colby,
important.
is an incredible dancer, 6'2", and just amazing. He is my first graduate to be admitted to Princeton University, and he's on the dance team there and making great strides in dance and in academics. And we do encourage our kids to go on and pursue academics as well as dance.
Well, and I think that as a general rule, my experience has shown that dancers are great students because of the discipline that they're learning, and obviously the awareness and self-confidence that comes with that, and the time management. You have to be a good time manager in order to do it all.
Right, that's the most important thing.
So your recital...
And most of our dancers in you know, the advanced class, from your daughter's class up, the majority are honor students.
Absolutely.
And it is because of their time management, and I mean, they spend a lot of hours a week at the studio, but I always question them about their time management skills, and a lot of them will plan ahead on weekends if they know they have a busy weekend dance coming up, or a weekend of competitions. For the most part, I would say 99% of the girls, because right now it's all girls, are very, very well disciplined.
Well, they need to be.
Self-disciplined.
They need to be in order to succeed in anything, but you definitely set that foundation. Now, your recital is coming up June 1st and 2nd. What are the types of things that parents and friends and anybody who comes can expect to see?
The interesting thing is that we have the little ones. I call them the babies, but some of them are just toddlers, barely 3 years old. We start them at 2, but most of them do turn 3 before the recital. And by that time, there's not that great a difference between those that started at 2 and those that were 3 in September. They really both come along beautifully. And the fact that even at such a young age, they can get up on a big stage like the Hanover Theatre and not cry and not be frightened and have a good time is what's important to me.
They make me cry every single year. I don't know a single one of them, but I get weepy every time I see them in their little tutus because they're pouring their hearts out for everybody. So you go from that preschool age all the way up to what really impresses me with your senior dance company.
Right. And actually this year my dance company happens to be very young. I only have one in the company 1, which is the most advanced. I only have one in Worcester, one graduating senior.
Wow.
And last year I think I had 10.
Wow.
So this is a very young company and a very good company.
I would never know that you don't have more graduating seniors.
No, I have 2. One is the mayor's daughter. She's in company 2. And then I have Becca Levin, who's in company 1. So those are the only 2 Worcester. And in Westboro, I have about 8 seniors graduating. And that's really a first in that studio. A lot of those kids have started when they were in preschool.
Wow.
And have stayed with it all the way through.
Well, for such a young company, it's also amazing that you have several either current title holders or holders.
We've been very fortunate. I credit my teachers with the technique that they emphasize, creating dances that have gone on to win New England titles, and several have, gone to dance professionally. Many have gone into college dance departments, like Sam Quinn, who's graduating in a week or 2, and he's been at University of Arizona and did very well there, and now he's got a contract to dance with River North, a very good company in Chicago.
Wow. So what is the advice that you give to aspiring dancers?
I guess the most important advice I give is to concentrate on technique, because if they have a good basic foundation in technique coming especially from ballet, but we do jazz and tap and modern and contemporary. But ballet is they have to have a strong foundation in ballet, because that carries into everything else that they do.
You were probably one of the first people to book a show at the Hanover Theatre, and I remember when you came into our offices I don't think that we had a shape to the outside of the building yet, did we?
It had a what outside the building?
A shape to the outside of the building. I don't think that we had a
When
facade.
when I decided, the day that I decided, I think I had had hip surgery, and my husband and I came to visit the the theater in progress and walked up planks.
I know.
And I looked around and thought, it must have been in January or February, and I thought, this is never going to be ready for March. But it was.
March 14th,
I mean, I
we
was
opened.
hoping it would be ready by June, but it opened, with Bernadette Peters in March.
Right.
And I'm proud to be the first rentee of the theater.
I am too. And so you've been with us from the beginning, and you've been a great supporter of the theater, not just with your recitals, but you're also a Franklin Square Society member.
Absolutely.
And you've also contributed to our other campaigns, and you're part of the Ambassador Circle. Do you want to say
My husband is.
Well,
He's
think
part of the Ambassador Circle.
so Ben Klein is part of the Ambassador Circle.
Right.
What made you choose the Hanover Theatre as a place where you wanted to have your annual recitals?
When I was a little girl in grammar school, even 5 or 6 years old, I used to go with my mother to, I guess it was a stage show followed by a movie. And so I've always had kind of a soft spot in my heart for that location, never ever imagining that after it was turned into Movieplex, that it would ever become a state-of-the-art theater. And I don't know, I just thought, well, I think it would be a great place to have a recital. And for the city, I thought it would be wonderful to bring the people that I service from Metro West that are in my Westboro studio, because many of those people had never been to Worcester and never had been to the theater. So I was kind of happy to be able to provide that for the people from Metro West.
Oh, it's great. And the thing about the theater and arts in general is the arts open doors, right? And so what are some of the doors that performing arts and dances really open for you and your family?
Personally?
Sure.
For me and, what do you mean by that?
Well, other people I've talked to, like Keith Lockhart, now that he's the conductor for the Boston Pops, and by the way, he didn't come from a musical family at all, which I find fascinating, he and many of the other performers, he has now performed for royalty. He has traveled all over the world, all because he started with piano lessons back when he was a child. So did you ever think that when you were first starting your dance studio that you'd be where you are now, and what are some of the opportunities that having this studio and being involved with the arts, whether it's dance or singing or theater, what are some of those opportunities that have opened for you or your family?
Well, first of all, when I started my studio, it was in the basement of my parents' home in a 14 by 14 room, which is the size of an average dining room. And when it got a little, then I think I ended up with 59 students that first year. And then I used to rent a church hall a couple of days a week. And then as I said before, I rented a big space in the Dexter building, which is right across the street from the Hanover. So it's now the parking garage. So, okay, what was the question?
So what are some of the doors that the performing arts and running your own studio have really opened for you and your family? As far as traveling or working with other performers?
Quite a long time ago, I thought it was important to belong to a professional dance teachers organization. I actually belong to two, and to be able to communicate with other people in the same profession. So, I did that, and through Dance Masters of America and the New England chapter, especially the national chapter, I had the opportunity during the summers at their conventions, which were all over the United States, to really travel. I mean, we don't do a lot of other traveling, but I've always, almost every summer, traveled to wherever the convention was. And I've had a lot of title winners, so that meant that the New England Dance Masters had to be represented at nationals. So Ben and I always went to the national convention to watch our students compete at that level.
Okay, I have to ask you, because everybody else is wondering the same thing. Is it really like Dance Moms?
Is what really like Dance Moms?
Studio life. Is studio life, are the mothers, you better say no, are the mothers really like that, Lisa, at Dance Moms?
Lisa,
no.
Funny you should ask that question.
Go ahead.
Because if you asked me a month ago, I might have said to you, oh, no, nothing like Dance Moms. But just a few weeks ago, we had a competition in Lowell, and there was a situation with mothers kind of assuming what maybe wasn't exactly going to happen the next day. And when I walked in the second day, I'm telling you, I texted my daughter, and I said, I have just walked into a scene straight out of Dance Moms.
Ah, that's
so
hysterical.
I think, unfortunately, that show has given some parents license to be obnoxious.
Oh, I just have to say for the record, I have never experienced what Charlotte is talking about. It's very nice, actually, going into the waiting room. Most people don't hang out and wait for their children to get out of dance class at a certain level. Most people, I think, leave the education, the choreography, everything like that to you and your staff, because, quite frankly, you all know what you're doing, from Christine all the way, I'd say, to your teaching assistant. And I just also have to let people know that one of the things that really impresses me about Charlotte Studios are her, what do you call them, the dance assistants? The students, yes, the students that are in the classes, their technique is beautiful. They are very good representatives of dance as a profession, and they're kind and considerate to everybody that's there. So it's a very well run.
What's good, too, with I noticed this, that those that assist, even as young as your daughter, because they may be working with very young children and doing the basics slowly and over, that it makes them stronger dancers.
Absolutely.
Even working with 8-year-olds.
Absolutely.
Because they have to be very conscious of their own technique.
Absolutely. And so regardless of whether my daughter dances another day after high school or not, I know that the lessons that she's learning at your studio are going to help her in whatever she does. So
absolutely.
I appreciate that from, a dance mom that is not one of the featured dance moms on some crazy reality show. And I really don't know what Charlotte's talking about, which is funny because, by the way, I was at that dance competition on Sunday. So I think you do a great job at really keeping it real and making sure that people are considerate and kind to each other. So hats off to you. You've been doing this a long time. You're a professional. Your dancers are beautiful. The company, One Dancers in particular, I absolutely adore watching them. I love seeing them grow. And you can see from one level to the next, from the preschoolers all the way up to the high school graduates, that every student improves every year significantly. There's definitely an education curriculum and program that will give people some good life skills.
I watched a student yesterday. There are 3 in her family, and this one really struggled. And all of a sudden, I see her blooming like a rose bud opening. And, not perfect, but to see a child like that develop these skills and with a smile on her face, that is my satisfaction, much more than just watching the title, winners.
Right.
Because, that child is getting something, actually developing confidence, which she needs desperately in her life.
It's a beautiful thing. So please go to our website, thehanovertheatre.org, if you want any information about the recital tickets. Charlotte, do you want to give a plug for your web address if anybody's interested?
My web address is www.ckdance.com.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And hey, we'll see you at the theater, Charlotte. I'll see you later at the studio. And everybody have a great day. Stay tuned for more conversations. And I'll see you at the theater.